I asked my dad to start airing up the tub since my husband has a long drive. I didn't want to wait for him. And we had tested airing up the birth tub with this little air pump that we have. And then my dad goes to air it up and the air pump stops working.
Oh no. Hi, I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 5 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Happy October, everybody. It is really fall now, which is my favorite season of the year. Hands down, bar none. I love the fall. I wish we had fall 9 months out of the year. And then we had, 1 month in each of the other seasons. But anyways, I love it. I love the leaves. I love the crisp air. I love the football games. We're a big Ohio State football fans because we're from Columbus, Ohio. I love the pumpkins and the corn mazes and the warm coffees and I don't know. I love everything about fall. It's just my favorite. So the weather, I think we have like one 80-degree day left or something. And then I want to say I think we're done after that, or at least I really, really hope we're done. Anywho, I got to start our it was the first night of our childbirth series tonight, one of 5. It's a 5-week class or a 5-week course. And we started tonight, which was so fun. It's our fall class for winter babies. And I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to teach an in-person class in January, which is when I would usually teach my next one. But I will have my little baby Bowie boy with me by that point, and he'll be, probably about a month old. So it might be a little soon, but we'll see. If I get enough interest, if there's enough people who want to take the in-person class, then we'll probably do it in January, and I'll probably just bring him with me. But if not, that is what we have our online course for, which is awesome. So it's the same exact class that I teach in person every quarter here in the Triad, but it is in the online format. So it's an on-demand online class that you can take at any time. And if you just click the link in the show notes, it will give you all the information that you need. So if you need a class before January, you can start as early as today. Okay, let's get into this week's episode. Wild pregnancy, free birth. Are you familiar with those terms? While Katelyn had a home birth for her first, she went one step further and planned a free birth for her second. Unlike some moms, she's not married to the idea though, and it's not a hill for her to die on. And if at any point she felt the need for assistance, she would have some. But as she said, until God told her otherwise, a free birth it would be. The Lord again taught her a lesson of patience, but this time it was in a totally different way from her first. Well, welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have Katelyn back with me today. Katelyn shared her first birth story on episode 71. So if you want to hear the details of that, you can jump back and listen, and we'll link that in the show notes. But she has since had another sweet little baby, and she is here to share that story. So Katelyn, just take a minute for those who didn't hear your first episode and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your life, and let us get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for letting me share another story. I'm really excited. My name is Katelyn Morgan. I live in Missouri with my husband and my now 2 little boys. I'm 26 and I'm a stay-at-home mom. just doing like little side businesses from home, which is really fun. I just started like my own little cottage bakery, which I'm really excited about. And we're just enjoying life here in Missouri.
What do you bake in this bakery? What do you specialize in? That's so exciting.
So kind of focusing on like a sourdough specialty.
Uh-huh.
My mom does it back in Colorado, and I've been helping her do all of her labels and advertising and like her marketing and stuff. So once I felt like life settled down after having him, my mom was like, "You need to do it for yourself. You're, helping me on the back end of all this. You should start baking as well." So we're doing that right now. And then my husband has always wanted to grow like gourmet mushrooms. So we're also working on getting that up and running. So hopefully next year we'll be able to have a farmer's market stand with, sourdough and baked goods and then gourmet mushrooms as well.
Oh,
So that's really
fun.
exciting for
That
us.
is so cool.
Yeah.
I go to the farmer's market every Saturday. I just have to mention, and there is someone who sells gourmet mushrooms there, and their stand always has a line in front of it. Everyone's always going for for the mushrooms.
That's what I'm praying for us as well. Once we can get everything up and running, I'm really hoping that that is the story for us too. So
Awesome. Okay, so in your last episode, you told us you were pregnant with another baby, and so you have since had
yes,
that
ma'am.
baby. So why don't you tell us the story about getting pregnant and just sort of like pick up where we left off before?
Yeah, absolutely. So this time around, it did take us a little bit longer to conceive. Not a long time by any means, but going from like getting pregnant on the first cycle, having to wait a couple months once we were ready to be pregnant again, um, was a little challenging because I thought for sure it'll just happen right away again. And then looking back now, I didn't really, I guess, put two and two together at the time, but about 2 months into us trying, I think I did have a chemical pregnancy or like a really early loss because my cycle was like more than 10 days late. And I thought at one point I did see a very faint line. And so I kind of just moved on, not really thinking about that. But after like hearing more stories and hearing other women go through that, I was like, oh, maybe that's what that was for us. But yeah, so it took us about 4 cycles. And then thinking about conception and things like my cycles were really, they'd either be like 30 days or like 35 days. They were kind of wonky. So I wasn't sure exactly when we conceived. So that threw like guest dates and everything off,
Yeah.
which was really difficult because I did end up going like even later with this pregnancy. Um, so that was kind of interesting, but I am really glad that I used a due date calculator that took into account cycle length. And I think I put in like my cycle had been like 32 or 33 days. So that gave me a later guest date because if I hadn't have done that, the guest date would have been like, I think April like 17th. And I didn't have him until May 6th. So that would have been just a crazy
A
like
crazy few
waiting game
weeks.
and made it even harder. Yeah, it would have made it even harder than it already was to have like that extra like 5 days that I think I'm due and baby's not coming. So yeah, that was conception. Um, I will say I think it was right after Christmas. So I wasn't quite like 20 weeks yet, I think. I had the only thing that I can explain it as is like what I thought was like leaking waters,
Hmm.
which was really difficult being in like a wild pregnancy. And like I had seen my midwife once at that point, just to my midwife for my first pregnancy, just to kind of like chat. And we did do a quick ultrasound, but it had to have been around like, it was before 20 weeks, I think. So, like I'm not feeling baby move a ton already and still having like a hard time finding the heartbeat with a fetoscope. So that was an interesting like day or two. I just had like one leak, but just having to like really pray and just kind of like wait and see in that moment. It was especially hard because the spring before my sister-in-law had a really, really devastating loss around like 17, 18 weeks. And even though the same thing that happened to her, like, is like not genetic or anything like related to me, but that was just kind of scary where I'm like, oh, this person that I love and care about so much had a loss around this time. And I had something that could be really scary. Obviously, in the end, It was fine. I don't really know what it was. I know I didn't like pee my pants, but I did have like fluid come out. So that was something that kind of, I guess, just like tested my faith. Not tested my faith, but I don't know how to explain it. When you're doing a wild pregnancy, there is a lot of faith and like trusting and just prayer.
Okay, but you haven't said that yet. So this was a wild pregnancy then, meaning
Oh,
we
yes.
weren't
Sorry.
no, it's
Yes.
okay. We weren't seeking any sort of care necessarily outside of yourself. Can you tell us like what led you to that decision?
So I actually stumbled across free birth and the concept of free birth or unassisted birth while I was pregnant with my oldest. And I really dove down that rabbit hole and just learned as much as I like possibly could get my hands on in that first pregnancy. But we had hired a midwife team and I loved that team and they loved me and it was just a great relationship. So we kept them for my first birth and had midwives with them. And it was a beautiful birth and I loved basically everything about it. But there were just a few things where I was like, oh, I feel like that could have gone maybe more according to like what I wanted if it had just been my husband and I. But overall, I'm grateful that I had a midwife team with my first. But I just knew even before I had my oldest that like for our second, we would probably be doing a free birth unless I felt God call us another direction. So I was really open to just, again, doing what I felt God called for us once we got pregnant again and we're looking at another birth. I did, like I mentioned a minute ago, have one appointment with the midwife from my first pregnancy during the second pregnancy, just because I was feeling like I just wanted a quick ultrasound just to kind of peek in there. And then also, I just kind of wanted that like sisterhood and to talk to somebody who was just like really experienced. And I knew that she was supportive of unassisted birth as well. So I felt safe, like being able to go chat with her about things, and that she would just love on us and share her wisdom with us. So we did do that one appointment. But otherwise, any care that I wanted throughout my second pregnancy, I did at home. Like when I felt like I needed to check my blood sugars, I did that at home. I kept track of like my blood pressure and I would listen to baby with a fetoscope. I just prayed about it and I was open to it not being a totally wild pregnancy. I wasn't like married to being able to use that term necessarily. We just went along with what I felt called to do.
So then you're getting closer to the end of your pregnancy. Was there anything that happened between that leak or that supposed leak and the end of the pregnancy worth noting, or did everything else pretty much just go really smoothly?
I didn't have anything else that was really big and concerning. Like I said, if something came up that I wanted to check, I did. Getting close to the third trimester, I felt like my belly just got huge overnight. And most of me felt really good about that. But then part of me was like, oh, it could be like gestational diabetes. So that's when I checked my numbers a couple times just to quiet that concern in the back of my head. There was one day I was feeling a lot of vertigo. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, I need to check my blood pressure and make sure everything's fine. And everything was great. So we didn't have anything to worry about there. I was waiting tables up until about 32 weeks, which was really intense being just big and pregnant and being on my feet a couple nights a week. That was also really great. It helped keep me active. And then, yeah, at the very end, we did like a one last trip to Colorado to see my family and then Illinois to see my husband's family. And around 36 weeks, I started saying, like, has to be any day now. Like, I'm so much bigger than I was last time. I was like measuring way ahead as far as fundal height. And as the weeks just kept going by, my family's telling me, Katelyn, you've been saying it's any day now for a month. I'm like, yes, but I'm for sure getting closer. Every time we say that, one day I'm going to be right. And my due date, my guest date came and went. And I thought, man, I'm going to have a really hard time if it gets to May and I'm still pregnant because I was thinking I was going to be having a baby sometime around like April 24th. And then May came and I was like, wow, I'm still pregnant. This is really, really intense. Because with my last one, I had him with my oldest one, I had him around 40 weeks and 3 days ish. But I had been having prodromal labor, so that was a big challenge for me with that one. A lot of prayer and saying it's going to be any day now. And I thought for sure I had learned my lesson about saying that and thinking that I'll know when I'm going to have a baby, but I didn't. And I kept, saying for sure I'm going to have a baby any day now. I didn't have prodromal labor this time, which was nice. But then I also had that little voice in my head saying, like, there's no signs of labor being anytime soon. So I'm like, am I actually getting close, or am I just going to, like, am I totally off on my date? Surely not, because I'm measuring so big. But maybe the last couple weeks are just mind game, at least for me. They have been.
They are for most people. Yes.
Other than just feeling tired and getting kind of, the only word I can think of is like desperate to, I don't want to say like be done being pregnant, but I was just, desperate for help with my like naughty toddler who's getting really close to being 2 years old. So he's getting into like the 2-year-old tantrums, and I'm super pregnant. It's getting really hot and humid here in Missouri. So finally I convinced my parents to come out just to help, even though I wasn't in labor, because they kept waiting because they didn't want to come all the way out here and then I not have the baby, and it feels kind of like a wasted trip. So when I was 41 weeks and 4 days, they came out just to help with Augie, and they brought like meat to fill up our freezer, and just be helpful. And I had decided that I wanted to do something to try to help me go into labor other than like the mile circuit and spinning babies and stuff. And so I had gotten clary sage oil, and I was like diffusing it, and my mom rubbed it on my feet. And then early in the morning, it was like 4 the next morning, I woke up and nothing was happening. And I had really been praying about it. And I had decided that I didn't want to drink castor oil because some of the stories that I heard were kind of scary and intense. And I didn't want to be like, have an upset stomach at the beginning of labor. But I had read somewhere that a woman had rubbed it on the outside of her belly and it helped her go into labor. And I thought that maybe that would be a little bit more gentle. So at 4 in the morning, I rubbed some castor oil on my belly. And I'm 41 plus 5 now. And then when I woke up at 7:30 the next morning, I was having contractions. But I was afraid to say that it was actual labor. So I just waited for my parents to grab breakfast and come over, or they grabbed donuts and came over. My dad is addicted to donuts. So he got donuts and came over, and we had planned to like go into the city and do some shopping and like get me walking around and everything. I told my mom, I said, I'm having contractions, so I don't think I want to get that far away from the house because I'd be like an hour away from home. But maybe we can do something around here. I'm still thinking it could be a day or two, or it could be, who knows, like another 5 days. Maybe this isn't anything. But as she's making breakfast and we're kind of putting around the house, things are getting a lot stronger. So I told my mom, I'm going to get in the shower and see if they go away or if they stay. I felt a shift where I was almost wanting to be like vocal through these contractions.
Mm-hmm.
So I hollered for my mom to call my husband because he is an hour away from the house. So she called my husband, and that's kind of when I decided, I was like, okay, this is the real thing for sure. And I asked my dad to start airing up the tub since my husband has a long drive. I didn't want to wait for him. And we had tested airing up the birth tub with this little air pump that we have. And then my dad goes to air it up and the air pump stops working.
Oh, no.
It's like an air mattress air pump and it stops working. So he calls my husband and he's asking him where the like connections for our big air compressor are. And he can't find them. And then when my husband gets home, my husband can't find them anywhere either, of course. So he volunteers to go to the hardware store and get a new piece. And I think I asked him the other day, like, why did you decide to go instead of sending my dad to the hardware store so you could be here?
Stay with me.
But, exactly. But he ran out real quick and like got the part. And I'm really getting into what I would consider active labor at this point. And they have the air compressor and they're airing up the birth pool, but it is so incredibly loud.
Mm-hmm.
It's really grating on my nerves. I was struggling with the sound. And then our neighbors have people that come and mow their lawn, and those people showed up to start mowing like right outside our living room window. So I was like hiding underneath the table during contractions, trying to find like just a dark spot to drown everything out, to try to block everything out during contractions. It got a little overwhelming there for a little bit.
Sounds like you needed some noise canceling headphones.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely should have put something on. So as far as timeline, I woke up at 7:30. That's probably like 10:30 that we're at right now.
Okay.
In between contractions, I'm trying to like pack up a bag to send our toddler with my parents. I was open to the idea of having him there or even having my parents like in the house, but things were, like I just said, getting really intense and like overstimulating. So I was like, okay, you guys got to go to your hotel room so we can, it would just be my husband and I at that point. So we probably sent them out somewhere between 10:30 and 11. And in between contractions, I'm telling my husband, like, "Ah, don't rush around. You're really running around. We have time," because he's trying to get the pool filled up. And of course, we ran out of hot water. So he's boiling water. And I'm like, don't rush. We got time. Everything's fine. It's just us now. We can I'm trying to like relax and calm down a little bit more in between contractions. And then before I know it, things are super intense. I'm roaring during contractions. And during transition, I get to where I feel like I need to shake either like my head or my hands to help handle the intensity.
Hmm.
I'm sure it looks crazy to somebody who's outside of my body, like looking at me, but just shaking my heads or my hands like helps. I don't know, just work through the contractions.
Yeah.
So the pool's finally warm enough for me to get in, and it was probably only 10 minutes before things changed and I was pushing.
Whether you are pregnant with your first baby or wanting to have a different birth experience for a subsequent delivery, this is the fully comprehensive Christian childbirth course for you, the Surrendered Birth Course. With over 10 years of experience as a childbirth educator, a birth doula, and having had 5 kids myself, almost 6, I have created a course fit for every mama out there who wishes to be fully informed on all things pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding, while remembering to keep Jesus at the center of it all. Our God created a beautiful design for birth, something to look forward to, and not something to be feared. Not only will this course get you prepared for your birth, but it will also get you excited for it. It will answer questions you never knew you had and teach you things you didn't realize were so incredibly valuable and central to the entire birthing process. I've had numerous couples on their second, third, or even fourth babies who've taken this course and said how incredibly glad they were and that they learned so much more than they ever thought they would. With over 12 hours of video content, 5 modules, numerous lessons, detailed PDF printout notes, and endless resources, we dive deep into pregnancy, labor, the risks and benefits of interventions, inductions, immediate and extended postpartum for both mom and baby, everything you need to know about breastfeeding, and basic newborn care. This course covers everything. Once you've taken the course, I am available to you for any questions you might have during a monthly live Q&A Zoom call exclusive to our online course audience, as well as through email. The course is on demand, so as soon as you purchase it, you'll be able to start right away and re-watch any lessons as many times as you need. Whether you are planning a medicated hospital birth or an unmedicated birth at a birth center or home birth, this course will prepare you in every way that you can be prepared. While I understand the desire to take a specific hospital or home birth course catered to your specific birth plans, birth doesn't always go how we plan. And having the knowledge of how birth can go in other environments outside of our plans is essential. Most importantly, I will help you to surrender these plans to God And in return, the Holy Spirit will provide you with the peace that only He can give. For more information on the course, to read testimonials of others who have taken it, or to sign up for the course, just click the link in the show notes. And lastly, remember, just like we say here every week on the podcast, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands.
And then I think I pushed for I just watched the video again this morning, I think like 15 minutes. And I was shocked with how fast things are going. And my husband, even though I was telling him like, okay, I can feel, I think the baby's head like at the top of the birth canal. And then before you know it, I'm like, oh, it's right there. I'm trying to breathe it away. I'm trying to slow it down because things are just happening so fast. And I really didn't want to tear. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I just had our baby's head. Like I just pushed out the baby's head. And you can hear my husband like, holy cow. Because I don't think he knew. Yeah. He knew that things were intense, but I don't think he knew that things were that close.
Right.
Backtrack just a little bit. Even before I got in the pool, I'm hitting transition. Looking back, I know it's transition, but I'm thinking and I even said it to my husband, I'm so tired. I don't know how I'm going to do this all day. And I get in the pool and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like just feeling weak. I don't know how I'm going to do this all day because I'm still expecting
this
a
super
longer
long labor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic second time mom.
Yeah. I'm just like trying not to get discouraged, but I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay home if this is going to be all day. And I already feel this like exhausted and weak.
Right.
So I was trying to like eat yogurt in between contractions, like drink my electrolytes. So yeah, anyway, so I'm pushing for maybe 15 minutes, which is crazy considering that with my first son, I pushed for about 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Or my body was pushing. With my first son, I didn't have to consciously like push and like make an active effort to push. And so that starts happening again for maybe 15 minutes. I birthed this little guy's head and the contraction didn't stop. So the head's out, but I'm still like roaring and I'm trying to find that restful moment like I got with my first.
In between the head and the body.
Yeah, because I had like a good long break with my first and I was relaxed and I was like, oh my gosh, my baby's head is here. I did not get that with this baby. It just kept going and kept going. So I'm actively trying to push because I'm thinking this has to stop. This hurts so bad. Like I need to get this over with. And I was kind of in like a runner's lunge position. This contraction felt like it lasted forever. And even watching it today, it felt like it was probably close to like a 2-minute contraction that just never ended. So I sit up and I put my hands on baby's head and I just scream this loud scream and get one final push out. And that's when like just the most beautiful part of this whole experience started because I got to sit back and, you know, pull my baby up and hold my baby and see my husband just be in total awe of it. But he was so much more comfortable because it was just he and I, and he could fully relax and be in that moment and not feel like he had to like watch over the space. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It was just so beautiful for us to be able to experience that, just the two of us. And he pinked up right away. I just held him on my chest. And after he had his first cry, I looked down and realized that we had another son, which took us totally by surprise. I was 100% convinced it was a little girl. Everything felt so different throughout the pregnancy. I just thought for sure we were having a daughter. So that was really fun. We just spent some time soaking it all in.
When did your water break during that process?
I actually am not sure. I think it was probably sometime while I was pushing, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you didn't notice it, then it was probably while you were pushing in the tub.
Yeah, I think, it had to be in the pool. So that was a very short amount of time. And that actually reminds me, right after my parents left with my toddler, I had my husband like help me to the bathroom. And then I was walking from the bathroom back to the living room where I had kind of like my birthing space set up. And he said, oh my gosh, your water hasn't broken yet. You're not leaking water. And I said, yeah, I know. And he's like, is that okay? like, is that huge? Because last time my water broke beforehand. So then everywhere I went, people were holding like a puppy pad under me. So I wasn't
Right.
leaking all over the house. So he kind of realized like, oh, your water's not broken. That's different. Like, is that okay? Like, I was like, yeah, some people's babies are born in,
In the
in
water.
the sack.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Yeah. Um, but he wasn't born in his sack. So I know that it had to break
Before.
sometime in the like 20 minutes leading up to him being born. I'm just not exactly sure when.
So at almost 42 weeks, then how much did he end up weighing?
He was a whopping 10 pounds and 13
Woo,
ounces.
woo, go girl. You beat me by an ounce. Look at that. Oh, man.
So that was, well, one thing I noticed it when I was rewatching my birth video this morning, as I told my husband, he really needed that extra time because Teddy, the one that I just had, was covered in vernix. Not the most vernix I've ever seen on a baby, but he had a lot. My first son, who was born around 40 weeks, didn't have any vernix on his body.
Wow.
And I know that that's not, like a
Usually that's
scientific
flipped.
for sure,
Yeah.
but yeah, you would think that, usually I guess I hear people say if they don't have any vernix, they're like super, super ready.
Hmm.
And so I was really shocked. I also thought when I had him, I looked at him and I thought, oh, he's so much smaller than Augie. He really needed that extra time. Um, because you just forget how small they are. But he was about a pound and a half heavier than
Right.
my first son. Um, so who knows time wise if I don't know how much longer he would have gone had I not sped things up.
Do you think that doing the castor oil on your stomach is what like kickstarted it?
I think that I mean, obviously I was close, right? Who knows if it would have been 1 day or 3 days.
Yeah.
I think I was approaching obviously that time where I would have had him without interfering. But I think it did kickstart things.
Had you like lost your mucus plug or anything like that before? Or were there like no signs?
I'd had some mucus over the last like over 2 weeks probably, but there were no telltale signs that like birth was going to be happening really
Gotcha.
quickly. Like no bloody show, not even very many like Braxton Hicks or prodromal labor or really any cramping.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I knew eventually I would have had a baby, but like I said, I just got to the point where I was feeling so desperate. And, I wanted my mom there. And since they were here, I was like, I want you to help out. So, I wouldn't say that I regret using the castor oil, but that was the choice that I made in the time. And I was wondering this morning how much longer, or if my labor would have been longer, from the time that I woke up and felt the first contraction to him being here in my arms was about 5.5 hours.
Nice. That's a good solid time.
Um, yeah. And I had been praying the whole pregnancy, like, Lord, please help it not be too long, but please don't let it be too short. Hearing some women who have like 45-minute labors, I was like,
Hmm.
that sounds so intense. And maybe I'm weird, but I did want some time to like enjoy the whole process,
Yeah, you're not
even
weird.
though I'm sure like my neighbors thought I was dying over here. It's very loud. I'm very loud while I'm in labor and it's really intense, but I did want to be able to enjoy it. So I felt like 5.5 hours was a good solid time. I thank the Lord that it wasn't any shorter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the immediate postpartum, I just snuggled him and, looked him over. I did have my husband get like her little Frida baby, like snot sucker, and I helped get some gunk out of his nose. And we would just kind of marveled in it, like, holy cow, we just had a baby in our living room. That's amazing.
Hmm.
Um, and then probably about 15 minutes later, I had my husband get me out of the tub and help me to the couch. Something that we spent a lot of time talking about during the pregnancy was like the birth of the placenta and bleeding, because that was something that came up with my first, was the placenta. I don't think it took an excessively long time, but with how much I was bleeding, we were like wanting to get it out. And I did end up getting a shot of Pitocin during that birth. And so that was something that we just talked about a lot on how we would proceed differently to help bleeding, hopefully prevent myself from bleeding too much. and then get the placenta birthed without any trouble. So as I was getting out of the tub, I checked the cord before I got out of the tub, and I felt like the placenta was still attached. So I had him help me to the couch. We got kind of cozied up, and I started nursing Teddy and just kind of waited to see that little gush that you generally see, like when the placenta detaches. And I let him know I reminded him that would probably happen, just so he felt good about any blood that he was seeing. Because that was kind of his thing with the first birth was, whoa, there was a lot of blood. He really didn't know what to expect, even from like a normal birth or bleeding a little bit more than expected. So I'm glad that we spent that time preparing just to make sure that he felt 100% comfortable, especially since we didn't have anybody else there. I wanted him to feel 100% prepared for what he would see. And then if we did need to do anything, he kind of had a heads up on what he could be doing to help out. But I didn't have very much bleeding at all. I was really, really glad that nothing came up there. We didn't have to do anything extra. It was maybe another 15 or 20 more minutes before I got up and kind of squatted over a bowl, and placenta wasn't quite ready. So I gave it a few more minutes. I was having the afterbirth pains, which were definitely worse with my second. So not super excited to see what those are going to be like as we continue having children, God willing.
Right.
But it was just really, really smooth. I was just so happy with how it went. It just all came really naturally. I think maybe total it was like 45 minutes before the placenta came. Again, I just got up and squatted over a bowl, and that was perfect. Placenta came out. I asked Zach to kind of like text my parents and let them know that baby was here and that we'd let them know when they could come back. They'd only been gone for less than 2 hours by the time that he was born. They went to the hotel and took a nap with Augie, and then they woke up and Augie had a sibling. So they just went and got us some groceries, and I let them know once the placenta was born. I just wanted to keep things just us and as close to like that birthing energy as I could.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any interference with like oxytocin flowing and like getting the placenta here. And so, yeah, that was really great. Once the placenta was here and we cut the cord, we told them they could come back. And yeah, Augie got to meet his little brother, and he was so excited. He was more excited about the pool being there.
Well,
and the like air compressor.
Naturally.
He thought that was just so fun. The like air pump for the pool was just the coolest thing. But yeah, it was simple. It was really beautiful and just special to have it be so intimate and just my husband and I.
Yeah. So now that you've done a wild pregnancy and a free birth and everything, is that what you think you'll do for like all future births?
Probably. Like I said earlier, it took me a while I was like researching free birth and unassisted birth to get comfortable with the nuance and not be really dogmatic about it. But I'm glad that I found that place of balance before I got pregnant again. So I feel really comfortable saying if anything came up, I would absolutely, see somebody to get it checked out. I'm not totally against having support there if that's what I feel like I need. I even had, like friends and a friend that was like, is a birth worker that I knew that I could call if I wanted extra support. So I wasn't totally against having anybody there, and I'm not in the future. I'm really open to just seeing what God calls us to do and what kind of support I feel like I need in the future. I did really, really enjoy this experience. So it would be great if that was that again. Or if I have more support, that's awesome too.
So, second time around, being quite different from your first experience, what do you feel like the Lord taught you this time?
I felt this with the last one too, but I guess it was just different as patience and leaning on him. I thought for sure I learned that lesson fully with my first pregnancy and birth, but apparently I didn't. It just looked, the testing, yeah, just really leaning on the Lord in those last weeks, and patience. I can't think of anything else other than the word patience and surrender, I guess.
Yeah. patients looking differently than last time with the weeks of prodromal labor, this time just going so far past your due date.
Yeah. Hopefully next time I won't convince myself that I'm going to go early or that I'll for sure go around the due date or the guest date. Because now that I've had one like right around the due date and then one so far past, like who knows when, if we're blessed with another one, when I'll go into labor. So yeah, I'm excited to hopefully go into another pregnancy eventually and try to use what I've learned from the last two, but we'll see. There'll be a different lesson, I'm sure, but
hopefully it's not patience again in another form. So
yeah, there are just so many ways it could go. I'm sure there's more patience I could be learning, but I'll definitely work on that beforehand and in between. I'm so grateful for you giving me the opportunity to share another birth story because it's my favorite topic to talk about. And there's just so many different ways that could look. And I think that we can just learn so much from each other's birth stories, even if, somebody's birthing differently than we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just excited to share. So thank you.
Of course. Well, thanks for sharing. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week, and remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands.
No, you can't say hi, buddy. I'm sorry. My toddler just woke up. Do you mind if I set up a movie for him?
No,
really
that's
quickly?
fine. Yeah,
I'm
go
so
for it.
sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, let's get the Lion King one for you, honey.
The Vicky.
Yeah, that is Rafiki.